the 200 win milestone between the two leagues, that would be one benchmark of what he has accomplished. I know wins are not what they used to be, and the analysts will tell me I don't care about wins. Okay, I got it. But you know what it means? It means longevity. It means you've pitched well for a really long time. And I imagine, I've not talked to Yu Darvish about this yet, but I imagine it means something to him.
Inside Scoop with Ken. Ken, good to see you. And let's start with Elly. Let's swing back to him because you just wrote about him. So we already are projecting his future, but really for your purposes, I'm curious why the Reds wouldn't look to really get after it with an extension with someone like him as soon as possible.
I imagine they will, but keep in mind the Reds are a team that has spent some money at times, but doesn't always do that. And with an extension, it always takes both parties to be agreeable. And I'm not sure where De La Cruz sees himself or his agent sees him at this point in his career, but I would expect those conversations, if they haven't taken place already, are going to take place. It's the middle of a season. Generally speaking, extension talks fade after April. But clearly, this is a guy you want around as long as possible. And let's face it, they've got him for 4 more years at least. So it's not like it's urgent, but yes, at some point, I'm sure this conversation will take place if it hasn't already.
I want to move over to the Orioles. You wrote a little bit about them too as well. Looking for outfield depth. Their outfielders haven't really hit well right now. A couple guys are in slumps. Is there any guys in mind that you could think of that, could help them out in the long run?
Well, there are obviously players who could help him, Todd, and Luis Robert Jr., if he's healthy, would be the foremost among them, but I don't know that they're going to be willing to pay the price that the White Sox will want for Robert Jr. His surplus value, that is the amount by which he'll exceed the contract's worth, isn't what it used to be because of injuries. It's a rising salary and all of that. And surplus value with a prospect is extremely high because you don't have any service time yet and the player has yet to get paid a lot of money. So I don't see it being that kind of guy. The way it was described to me was that they could pursue a veteran type, maybe a Kevin Pillar, Tommy Pham type, just to give them more of a right-handed presence, which is something right now that they're struggling a little bit with. Against left-handed pitching, they haven't been as good from their outfield. Cedric Mullins has struggled. Colton Cowser has struggled, and ultimately they might need to address that. Or maybe Cowser comes on, maybe Kjerstad comes back. Who knows? We got a long way to go, but certainly that is something that they may need to look at. Because keep in mind as well, Mullins and Austin Hayes, free agents after next year, not this year, after 25, not 24. But the clock is ticking on both.
Hey, Ken, I know the Mets have been a hot topic with their play and some of the moves they made over the last couple of years. Stevie Cohen, one of the favorite owners of everybody who's out there, he tweets, he comes to the games, he shows up, he spends money. Did he make a mistake by sending out his tweet the other day about, we're going to sell? And then he's like, oh, wait, I'm just kidding. I was hacked. I deleted it.
He didn't say he was hacked. He told Andy Martino that was
I'm kidding,
supposed to be.
That's usually what happens.
Well, he said that was supposed to be a DM. Now, here is a guy who is a multi-billionaire, okay? And listen, we all struggle with technology from time to time. This is someone who's not sending out DMs properly and who's putting them on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I sort of have a hard time believing that. I don't know the context of what that conversation was, the context of even the tweet. If he was trying to send it to somebody else, maybe the question was entirely different. Maybe the question was, do you want to be a buyer? But that was a very interesting turn of events, him deleting that tweet. And let's face it, the Mets, the way they're going, they're not trending toward big buyer. They're kind of a middling team that has problems with its rotation, walking everybody, can't throw out base stealers. It's not a playoff type team, at least right now. They think they are, but we're not seeing it from the performance standpoint. So, AJ, this is the kind of thing with 2.5 months to go before the deadline. It's going to have to play out more, but it's going to be really interesting to see which direction they turn, particularly with Pete Alonso, who we've talked about a lot, and who, if they're out of it at the trade deadline, they may decide, you know what, we're not signing this guy. Let's at least explore his value. And I can see that happening if indeed they don't start playing better.
Ooh, can you imagine Mets fans if they get rid of Pete Alonso? Oh man, There might be a riot in the streets for that one, but that's a different topic. But I want to talk about sellers. I mean, Stevie Cohen's like, we got to wait till the trade deadline. I get it, All-Star break, whatever it is, whatever he was trying to say with that tweet. But I'm looking through the league, and I'm like, we've already talked about the Blue Jays potentially. The Red Sox, would they sell some of their starting pitching? Would the A's sell Mason Miller? Would the Angels sell? I don't know. They have a whole lot to sell. Maybe a couple of their starters they could maybe make some moves on. But you look around the league, there's not a lot of sellers. The Cardinals, maybe some of their starters, but in all honesty, it's not a lot of sellers because of the wild cards and because some teams are like, oh, we're in it. They might be delusional, but this is kind of what happened last year, right? Too many teams like, we still got a chance. So how many sellers do you actually think would be out there?
AJ, you nailed it. And the expanded playoffs have changed the entire dynamic of the deadline. And there will not be as many sellers, perhaps, as there used to be. It's a little early still to identify which teams we might be talking about. The Marlins for sure. Yes, the A's I would expect as well. Though it might not be Mason Miller, it might be others. Who knows what they'll do. The Rockies are playing a little bit better. They might deceive themselves into thinking we've got some momentum now and maybe we should keep going. I can see all of this happening. I can see teams like the Cardinals, the Blue Jays. We were talking about the Astros a few weeks ago, and now they're suddenly playing better. So if a team stands a chance at the deadline, if it perceives itself as some kind of club that can play better in the final 2 months, particularly if they enhance themselves, they're not necessarily going to sell. And if you look at the example of the Diamondbacks last year, had a horrible August, looked like they were out of it. And yet they came back, won 84 games, and then got hot in the playoffs. That is the enticement that is out there now with the 3 wild cards, with the expanded playoffs. Teams are not going to be willing to concede as easily.
Ken, a follow-up on the timing of trades. And I think we talked about this one of the last few chats that we had. I believe more trades should happen earlier because it's a few games that are going to separate some wild card teams. This is the Diamondback story from last year, right? This is a team that's in the 500-ish range in mid-August, and a few games can make the difference between you making the playoffs at all or being a World Series team. We could make this case for a team like Seattle. So the reason I'm bringing this up is the Marlins actually did this, right? They did this now, 2 weeks ago. They got rid of one of their best trade assets. The backlash is always going to be bad for Miami fans right now because of what they've been through. But do you think that owners paid attention to the backlash that the Marlins received and said, I get it, we might get our best deal on June 1st, but it doesn't look good. It's going to crush us selling tickets. So I don't care. We're still waiting until we get to the end of July. And I think the Rockies are a perfect example. They're not making the playoffs, but they might say, hey, we're having fun. Some people are excited about it. So we'll sell a piece or two, but we're not going to do it for a couple months.
Scott, I see your point. And certainly if you're a team like the Marlins, why not? If you can get a better return on May 1st as opposed to July 31st, do it. You know where you are. You're being realistic about your position. At the same time, this sport, like most things in life, operates with urgency only when there is a deadline. And we see this not just with the trade deadline. We see it with the arbitration signings that take place in January. We see it in every aspect of the game where transactions are enforced by a deadline. So that is why things generally develop later. The other aspect is what AJ was just bringing up as far as teams thinking they're in it, perhaps deceiving themselves. So while it's always a great idea in our heads to think, man, this team should act right now, get a better return, start selling off its parts, in reality, that rarely happens, and it happened in an unusual case this year with Arise. But I don't see a trend in that direction. If anything, given the way things are now, teams will be more inclined to wait.
Ken, you've got Padres Braves this weekend, right?
I do.
Okay, Padres Braves on Fox. Can you give us a little preview of what you've seen from these teams so far and what kind of notes you might unload, especially because you'll be able to talk since AJ's not on the call with you?
Exactly. The first thing that is going to be of interest in our game on Saturday is Yu Darvish. And I was not aware of this until someone made me aware of it earlier this week. But he is going for 200 wins combined between NPB, the Japanese league, Nippon Professional Baseball, and Major League Baseball. And you might think, who cares? But that's actually a big deal in Japan, certainly. I would imagine it's a big deal to Darvish. only Hideo Nomo and I can't think of the other pitcher. Well,
Kuroda.
anyway, Kuroda, yes, Kuroda.
Kuroda.
They're the only ones with
I'll do it,
above.
Ken. I got it.
Thank you, AJ. They're the only ones with above 200, and it's only a few more than Darvish is at now. So to me, that's one of the principal storylines of this as he goes for 200. And then in a more general sense, as you pull back, the Braves offensively have not been quite what we thought they were. Now, granted, coming off a historic season, offensively, they were never going to be that good again, most likely, but it's been a little bit of a slow going for them. And the Padres were a confusing team. 2 out of 3 from LA last week, the Dodgers, and then they get swept by the Rockies. Their big three, Machado, Tatis, Bogarts, have not clicked yet individually. And that's a problem. They've got some other good things happening, and certainly with Dylan Cease and Darvish and Musgrove, once he comes back, their rotation could be formidable. Michael King, of course, being part of that. But they seem to be the kind of team that's going to be kind of hanging around, not eliminated by any stretch. And who knows, Preller may make another move to reinforce them. But they're a little bit of a curiosity right now. The Braves, I expect, are going to be right there. Bryce Elder is pitching in our game on Saturday. Remember, he didn't make the rotation out of spring training, even though he was an all-star last year. And now he's trying to prove, hey, I belong here. And that alone will make it interesting to see that matchup, Elder versus Darvish.
You talk about Yu Darvish. I mean, the guy's I feel like he's been a dinosaur. He's been doing it for so long. He's coming up on a big milestone. Talk about what he's done for the game and how, effective he's been over the years.
It's interesting, Todd. Someone with the Padres mentioned to me a couple of days ago that where at one point in his career he might have been overrated. Now he might be underrated. And he's done a lot in the game. And I know at times he's been disappointing in the playoffs for the Dodgers, for instance. But if you look at the breadth of his career, the whole entirety of it, what he has accomplished, it's pretty amazing. And beyond all that, this bears mentioning, he is a role model for other Japanese players from Ohtani on down. They look up to him. He is almost like their godfather. So he has had a huge impact on the game since arriving in the United States. And the 200-win milestone between the two leagues, that would be one benchmark of what he has accomplished. I know wins are not what they used to be, and the analysts will tell me I don't care about wins. Okay, I got it. But you know what it means? It means longevity. It means you've pitched well for a really long time. And I imagine, I've not talked to Yu Darvish about this yet, but I imagine it means something to him.
Ken, this analyst think wins matter, so that's fine. That's why Todd intentionally walked the kid in Little League to get the win. So I get it. Okay?
That's right.
But and I'll also say this. You listen, I caught Yu Darvish, I think it was his second year in the big leagues, 2013. He had a great year and actually had an unbelievable year that year. And I thought he could have been even better because he's actually now figured out that he can throw a fastball for a strike and get away with it. So that's been a nice growth step, and that's probably why he stuck around for so long. And yes, he's had some problems, but he speaks really good English. We'd love to have you on you. So let's go. So Ken, talk to him tomorrow when you see him, or today if you see him. But also, I got to ask about the Braves. Do the Braves have enough? And when is Olsen, Acuna, Riley going to get it going? Because that's the big story for me. I mean, I know Marcell Ozuna has been unbelievable, but at some point, Acuna, Riley, Olsen, and when they get Sean Murphy back, like they're going to need some other people to step up. And do they have enough pitching without Strider? I say yes to catch the Phillies.
Acuna's been better in May. Olsen, some of the underlying stuff is really good. They expect, obviously, those guys are going to perform close to their career levels. The pitching is the bigger question for me, AJ, and obviously Chris Sale has been tremendous. Reynaldo Lopez coming into the rotation, back to the rotation, has been tremendous. Max Fried, since coming off the IL, really good. Charlie Morton, despite his advanced age, really good for the most part as well. My question with this team is, where are they going to be with that rotation in October? Now, one thing, and I'll probably talk about this tomorrow, is they've gone to 5 days of rest or more, or 6 days of rest or more than they have in the past. And they're trying to space it out, trying to preserve their guys as best they can. But the injury histories are what they are. The innings histories are what they are. And I just wonder if at some point, while they have some depth options, I just wonder if they're going to need another starter. That, to me, would be the biggest question with them. Their bullpen's really good. Their offense is going to be really good, in my opinion. But what is that rotation state going to be in September going into October? Will it be enough?
I have the same feeling. I like what I see right now, but it's hard for me to imagine that all of those names are going to get through the season and feel okay. So we'll see. We'll watch you on the game this weekend. Have fun on the call,
I won't.
Ken.
I won't.
Well, you have your own game, AJ.
Yeah,
We'll
so
do
I
a
won't.
little 2-screen action. Anyway, Ken, have fun on the game. We'll see you next week.
AJ, have a great game, man.
Thanks, Ken. I really appreciate it, man. We're going to do it
I
without
know
a
you
sideline
do.
reporter. Thank you.
I know.
Appreciate it.
Wow.
Now we'll get
You guys
through.
are great. Thanks, Ken. Talk to you soon.
Have a great weekend, guys.
You too. It's a little bit of, I don't know. I just watched the end of Curb Your Enthusiasm, the Ken AJ dynamic. I don't know what it is, but it's got something to it. Gotta love it. Mondays, Thursdays, Ken without AJ. Mondays, solo Ken. It's called Fair Territory. Go check it out wherever you get your pods or on this very YouTube channel. Thursdays, it's Ken and Alana Rizzo for a live Fair Territory. I don't know what it is. There's a comp somewhere. Maybe someone can think of it, but the Ken AJ dynamic, it's got something to it. It's a sitcom.
Ren and Stimpy.
I don't know what sitcom. Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy.
I think there's a lot of our audience now that probably don't know who Ren and Stimpy are. Unless
No,
they're still around. I
tons
don't
of-
watch cartoons anymore, but I'm guessing they've been gone for a minute.
I think so.
Okay,
Wasn't it on
well-
Nickelodeon? They're kind of into other things now. I mean, wait. Did anyone see that documentary? No.
Oh,
Sorry.
I didn't see the doc, but I read some things.
That was tough.
Not good. Not
Yeah,
good.
no good.
Yeah, not for this show, but you can read it.
Yeah.
Hot corner time. Ken weighed in. Let's get our 3 cents. Steve Cohen deletes the tweet about the Mets and then talks on SNY. I think it was before the game, right? I mean, I saw the comments and the Mets had a nice dub over the Phillies in extras. And Cohen said, I believe in this team. I believe in the back of the baseball card. It's way too early to speculate on anything. It's May 16th. I expect to make the playoffs. I know the fan base is frustrated, but it's still early. We're still very capable of making the playoffs. I fully expect to make the playoffs. You know, what this said to me, Todd Father, and there's the deleted response where he said, all in the future, not much we can do until trade deadline. To me, this is just frustrated super fan. That's the character that he plays. He is a super fan of the Mets before he owned the team. I think he's pissed. I think he realizes that even though they kind of all agreed to take a mini step back while David Stearns takes over and they're going to be more aggressive in this offseason coming up, it still hurts to see it. I think he expected this team to be more of a
Scott, I'll be honest. I think he knows what he's doing. I think the guy's a very smart dude. I think, he went on SNY. It probably wasn't planned. I mean, they might say it was, but when somebody does a tweet like that and all of a sudden they got to come back on.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
baseball the way it should be covered.